Good morning, everyone. I'm Denise Smiler, Chair of the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. I would like to ask everyone to please silence your cell phones and all electronic devices at this time. Also, while masks are no longer mandatory, please feel free to wear one if you believe it is required or necessary for your own well-being. Well, today is a little bit of an unusual day because, as it turns out, December 2024 is the 20th anniversary of the very first meeting of the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. We certainly couldn't let that milestone go by without public recognition. So with that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to our Executive Director, Kevin O'Toole. Kevin.
Thank you, Chair Smiler. Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Well, it's nice to have a good crowd here today because I have the pleasure of recognizing today as the 20th anniversary of the first public meeting held by the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. That was on December the 14th and December the 15th. It was a two-day public hearing, and it was held at the Pennsylvania State Museum Auditorium. So just as an aside, 11 years later, 7 years later, 2011, we opened up our public meeting room here in our Office of Hearings and Appeals complex. So we've been able to come every single month since then to the same location. And we're awfully glad to be able to do that. But we have the pleasure of having a number of individuals here this morning who were at that public meeting. And that certainly is led by the chair of the Gaming Control Board, Tad Decker. Tad, as the chair, did a fabulous job during his tenure. It was a super difficult time because you're trying to open up an agency. I think it was the first time in several decades at that particular point in time. So we're very much indebted to Tad. And with Tad on the dais that day was Commissioner Mary Collins. And Mary did a great job, and subsequent to her being a commissioner, she also assumed the job of chairperson of the board before her term expired. And also, we had at that public meeting, and I'm going from the transcripts, I'm not just making this up, just in case you want to know. We pulled out the transcripts of those public hearings. And present at that public hearing was ex officio member Greg Feit as the Secretary of Revenue. And Greg, as I'm sure most of you, if not all of you know, served the board for quite a number of years as chairperson of the board and also as a commissioner. And we also had the benefit of having a great team of employees that Tad and his team developed. And we had two employees who served us for quite a long while, and they're present here today as well. Susan Hensel, our Director of Licensing, and I'm not sure where there's Susan, and Michael Walsh, our Administrative Director. I'd also like to recognize, subsequent to that first grouping, as you know, there's term limits for commissioners. So there's a turnover every 4, 5, 6 years. And we've had some great commissioners over the years. And I'd certainly like to recognize Gary Soika. And I'd also like to recognize Anne Marie Kaiser. I hope she's still in here, but that's okay. And I wanted to take a special moment to recognize the ex officios. In those 20 years that we've been holding public meetings, we have always had a group of ex officio designees here. And I can attest to everyone here that they really do contribute very significantly to the work of the board. And we're very blessed to have a great team of ex officios, the Secretary of Revenue, Secretary of Agriculture, and the Pennsylvania Treasurer. Here today we have Russell Redding, Secretary of Agriculture. Thank you, Russell. And we're also very pleased to have Eileen McNulty here with us today. Eileen worked for the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board as our first Director of Finance. And subsequent to her tenure in that position, she also became an ex officio member as Secretary of Revenue. Thank you for coming today, Eileen. And last but not least, we've always had to have a good team of lawyers here at the board because they're always challenged by all of the counsel from the casinos and vendors and manufacturers. So our Office of Chief Counsel and our Office of Enforcement Counsel have grown over the years, but I wanted to recognize Michael Walsh, not Michael Walsh, Kevin Hayes, for being one of those pioneers in the legal environment for the board. So that's it for today, and we're also going to have Tad Decker come up and say a few words as the first chair of the Gaming Control Board. Tad?
You see, he emphasized the word few, I think I heard. Chairman Eisler and all the commissioners, thank you. And thanks for coming to the dinner last night as well. It was a lot of fun. It was a unique time for us. We had our organizational meeting, the very first one that Dennis mentioned, which was I guess the 14th, 15th, something along those lines, right? So we had a nice dinner and looked at our agenda the night before, and then we came out and right before we started, I think, Michael, I'm not sure whether it was at the break or whether as we were getting started, a process server came up and served me with a lawsuit challenging our existence, right? On the theory that the statute was passed in an unconstitutional manner. And some of the plaintiffs were, legitimate anti-gaming kind of people, and who felt very strongly about it. And others were some people in the legislature who just were fooling around. So at the end of the meeting, I asked, was there, right before we adjourned, and I said, right before we adjourned, is there anyone who would like to file a lawsuit against this as we adjourn? The case, the jurisdiction on this case went to the Supreme Court by reason of the statute. That's what the statute says. When you challenge it, it has to go to the Supreme Court. But the case lasted almost a year before a decision came down. I'd say about 10 months. And during that time period, we didn't feel we could recruit and hire people other than the ones that came over, like, Susan and Mike from the governor's office or from the legislature, those folks that were involved in actually creating the entity. You mentioned Greg Veit. I kind of consider Greg the George Washington of the gaming board, because he was the one really working in the Rendell administration, along with the other folks, to get this thing up and running, right, as the commissioners came on board. I think we all remember meeting with them. There are a couple commissioners that are not here. Ray Angeli, Bill Conaboy, and Ken McCabe couldn't make it, right? And Chip Marshall had to leave this morning for something back in Philadelphia. And a couple of our commissioners have passed away, Sanford Rivers and Jeff Coy, who were instrumental in helping us get things done. One of the things we were able to accomplish during that period of 9 months, when Mary was working on regulations and Sanford was getting ready to help Mike recruit people, and we did get a fair amount done during that process. But the best thing about all of this was when we were able to get up and running 1 year, approximately 1 year after, we did recruit and get a number of people when we were ready to go. We were able to finish the licensing without compromising our financial and background investigations at all, right? 1 year before anyone expected us to get that done. And that resulted in what we call a terminal value to the state of about $2 billion. In other words, doing it today rather than a year from now. And of course now, what's the income now? 6 billion or something?
It's approaching that.
Approaching that. Okay, so that's terrific. So I don't have much else to add. It was from my own standpoint, it was a great time period to be in the state working up here. And I met a ton of really nice people who have become friends for life. And so I really felt rewarded by the experience. And the only downside I had in the whole thing was that when I first got started, Adrian King was my liaison with the governor's office. If you remember that. It wasn't so bad. So anyway, thank you very much for coming. It wasn't that bad. Right. He was replaced by, who replaced you? It was, no, it was, I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, it was great. Thank you very much.
Well, I have to thank all of the former commissioners and former employees that have joined us, and thank you for all the work you've done. It's made our present commissioner's job a lot easier than what you had to do, so we really appreciate it. That was wonderful, and unfortunately, we now have to conclude the celebration and return to the normal business of the board. So, thank you.
Real interesting. He knows this is going to be.
Okay, with 7 board members present this morning, I'd like to now call today's meeting to order. In addition to the 7 board members, we also have our ex officio members, Fred Strathmeyer representing Russell Redding, Secretary for the Department of Agriculture, Adria Zimmerman representing Pat Brown, Secretary for the Department of Revenue, and Jennifer Langen representing Stacy Garrity, State Treasurer. Thank you, ex officios, for joining us. As the first order of business, I'd like to ask everyone to please stand and join me in a recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Going down. Yeah. Anyway. By way of announcements, the board held an executive session yesterday, Tuesday, December 17th, to discuss personnel matters, pending litigation, and to conduct quasi-judicial deliberations relating to matters coming before the board. Today, we have scheduled a public hearing on Mountain View Thoroughbred Racing Association LLC's request to have its Category 1 license renewed. As I believe everyone is aware, Mountain View's Category 1 license is used to operate the Hollywood Casino at Penn National Racecourse. For this renewal, we will now hear from Hollywood Casino and the Office of Enforcement Counsel. I would ask all non-attorneys who will be presenting evidence today in this proceeding to please stand and be sworn in by the court reporter at this time. Thank you. I would also ask that everyone who is going to speak to please state and spell your name for the court reporter prior to speaking. And with that, Hollywood, you may begin.
Chair Smiler, members of Gaming Control Board, good morning. Adrian King here from the Ballard Spar Law Firm on behalf of Mountain View Thoroughbred Racing Association, doing business as Hollywood Casino at Penn National Racecourse. As the chair noted, we're here with our final hearing, seeking the renewal of our license to continue operating the casino at Grantville. We will keep things as sharp and crisp as we can and move through our presentation. With me here today is Tony Ferbeil, who, as you know, is our Vice President and General Manager. Next to Tony is Alex Vizda, who's our Regional Director of Compliance. Then next to Alex is Kim Rigo, our Vice President for Human Resources. And finally, but not least, Andrew Watts, who's our Director of Casino Operations. I'm going to turn it over to Tony, who's going to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Adrian. Madam Chair, members of the board, it's a pleasure to be in front of you today on such a significant day. And my last name, I should spell it because it's challenging, F-R-A-B-B-I-E-L-E, first name Tony, T-O-N-Y. What I would like to start off with, and I think it's fitting that it is today, is how much impact Penn National Racecourse has had on the gaming industry as you look at our history throughout Pennsylvania. We were the first in a lot of different categories. When you look at the expansion of gaming with Cat 4s, we were the first and to purchase a license with our York facility. We were the first to take a retail sports wager at our property. We also were the first to go with iCasino Live Dealer. And we continue to lead the way. We also were the first to take cashless wagers inside of the Commonwealth. And we take a lot of pride of that, as well as being the only gaming company as our parent, Penn Entertainment, that is located here in Pennsylvania. So we take things to heart here in PA and want to make sure that PA is a great business environment, and we do as much as we can for the Commonwealth that we all live and work in. Taking a look at our numbers, since 2008, we've generated $3.8 billion in gaming revenues just through our brick and mortar property alone. That doesn't include any iGaming certificates that operate on top of our license. That's over $2.2 billion in gaming revenue and taxes and fees paid back to the Commonwealth to help the economic engine of the state. We've also paid over $385 million in wages since 2008, $47 million in benefits, and $133 million in payroll taxes. We also have done a lot with supporting businesses of minority and women-owned businesses. Over the past 5 years, we've used 64 different businesses that fit into that category, which we're very proud of. We also have our property now being 16 and a half years old as a casino, but we've been around for over 50 years, so as a racetrack. And we continue to reinvest in our facility. We've put over $82 million back in capital into our facility since 2008. Some of the things I think to highlight there is our sportsbook operation at $6.3 million. We converted our former buffet space into now what we call the ESPN Bet sportsbook and restaurant, which we're very excited about. We also have just finished up and completed our manganese plant, which, if you're not familiar with that, that's a mineral found in water. We operate our own water well and our own water treatment facility at our property. So we're very proud of that. That also supports more businesses than just ours in the Grantville area. So, and we continue to look for ways to be more sustainable. I think I'm hopeful that we'll have more to share with you when it comes with that front. Our company is very focused on our footprint when it comes to being as green as possible, and we're exploring opportunities for solar to see if we can't become a fully sustainable casino and potentially the first in the United States, which would be, I think, a pretty neat thing to be. We also sponsor quite a few organizations. I'll name out a few of them. But the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, National Minority Supplier Diversity Council, U.S. Pacific Islander and Asian Chamber, the U.S. Black Chamber, the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber, the U.S. Hispanic Chamber, and the National Veteran-Owned Business Administration. And veterans is something we do truly take to heart. If you've been out to any of our concerts, our stage is named Penn Heroes, and Alex will talk to you more about that as he gets into his part of the presentation with the philanthropic efforts that we generate to help our PA veterans. So now I would like to take a moment to just talk about the state of the Commonwealth, as we've seen a lot change, as we've talked about today, I think already, with gaming since its inception, where we now have more brick and mortar casinos, and we have iGaming, and we have sports wagering. And I think what this chart shows is that brick and mortar revenues have remained relatively constant throughout that time frame. So we believe that the business there has been relatively healthy. And when you look at table games and slots, specifically when you start to break it down, we see a larger decline at brick and mortar casinos on the slot side versus tables. And when we look at iCasino, that customer typically goes more towards a younger demographic, and also a customer that skews more towards tables and sports wagering. So it led us to ask the question, what's really impacting our slot revenues? And Alex Savitsa really took this to heart, and I'm going to let him speak to that as what his findings were.
Thank you, Tony. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Alex Vizda, A-L-E-X, last name Vizda, H-V-I-Z-D-A. And I'll start with this slide right here. So what we looked at was the numbers as of fiscal year 18-19, which would have ended on June 30th of 2019, just 2 weeks before iGaming and about a month before VGT started. And then we compared it to fiscal year 23-24, which is the most recent year for which we have numbers. And when we looked at it, in fiscal year 18-19, we had 12 land-based casinos. In 23-24, we now have 17 land-based casinos. And when we looked at those existing casinos, which is the light green color there, their slots are down 1.5%. And their tables are down 8.7%. So you have, 15% on the slots and 8.7% on the tables. So when you look at it, slots are being more impacted than tables at the existing 12 casinos. When you add in those 5 new casinos, you see that slots are up 2.5% and tables are up 8.2%. So you see that even adding in 5 new casinos, the slots are not up as much as the tables are. So the question becomes, well, what is impacting slots? Why are the slots not growing as much as the tables when you factor in all 17 casinos? And why are the slots the ones that are more affected at the existing 12 casinos? Well, what are the other pressures on there? If you look at iGaming, studies have shown, and we can just know this intuitively, that the land-based customer and the iGaming customer are largely two different people, the iGaming customer being a younger customer. It's also a different experience, tapping on your phone at home versus being in a casino with customer service and physically touching the machine. So iGaming has both tables and slots play. So there's no difference there. Then you think, okay, well, could it be the VGTs? Well, there's only 370 VGTs across the entire state. So what is there out there in the market that is a pressure that's on slots that is not on tables? And Adrian, if you'd go to the next slide. 2 slides. We would submit that it's the skill game. So we spoke about this back in August when we were doing our slot reduction. And what we did over the summer was we wanted to get some boots on the ground, real world data here. So we took a 10-mile radius around PNRC, which the first 5 miles of that is mostly fields and housing developments. And we looked at any location in that area that could have had a skill game in it. And I personally did this. We went to over 225 different locations in a span of a couple weeks. And what we found there was over 77 locations with over 325 skill games. So within a 10-mile radius of our property, there's as many skill games as there are VGTs across the entire state. I think what's most telling, though, is what does this mean to the consumer? So on the right there, we have a picture. One of those is a VGT that's taxed at over 50%. It's regulated by the board. It has responsible gaming controls, both for the employees at the VGT site. It's connected to the central control computer system. It has surveillance, and it has security controls with transporting the money to and from it. One of those is a slot machine, same thing. Taxed at over 50%, responsible gaming controls, connection to the central control computer system, surveillance, and employees who are licensed by the board. And one of those is a skill game, not taxed, not licensed, no regulations, no responsible gaming, not contributing to the county through local share assessments. And if you're the consumer, how are you supposed to know what the difference between the 3 of those are? So if you are interested in that tactile experience of playing a slot machine, we submit to the board respectfully that you now have 77 other locations just within 10 miles of our casino to do that. And that, we believe, is what is causing the impact to the land-based slots revenues.
Thank you, Alex. With that, we'll turn it over to Andrew.
Hey, good morning. My name is Andrew Watts, Andrew, last name Watts. So recently, we completed a reduction to 1,532 slot machines. Even with the reduction, we continue to spend $1.7 million a year on new slots to ensure the floor has all of the most popular titles that our guests are looking for. In fact, we recently added 24 brand-new machines to our casino floor just in December alone. We've been reconfiguring the floor to provide more elbow room between slot banks to create wider aisles and a more comfortable layout so players can have more elbow room and find their favorite machines quicker. This has been successful so far and resulted in a 3% increase in coin-in just in November versus November last year. We've also worked to move and shrink the smoking sections to the back corners of the casino. And on to table games. So over the last few years, we've focused on moving all the tables to the front of the casino to create more energy when you first walk in to feel that vibe. We've added new wagers, including DJ Wild Stud Poker, bonus craps, interblock hybrid craps, 5 treasures wager on our mini-bot games. Mini-bot has seen tremendous growth, and year-to-date improvement is 33.4% versus last year, or $3.5 million in drop. We launched the first statewide linked table games progressive between York, Morgantown, Meadows, and PNRC. The figures you see are the amounts wagered and won since December of 2022, and 3 of the largest jackpots. You know, we're also excited to announce that recently, over Thanksgiving weekend, York gave out a $682,000 jackpot on a $5 wager. And in mid-2024 this year, PNRC and Meadows brought back poker, which has been down since COVID. This has been very exciting, and we also brought back high hand payouts and a bad beat jackpot, which is now over $80,000. So the first legal sports wager in PA was taken at PNRC in 11/17/2018. We saw an immediate increase in foot traffic, including many patrons from out of state. Online sports betting started in Q3 of 2019, and business has been very stagnant since that point. Still, we work to continue to create a unique viewing and entertainment experience for our guests to warrant them coming out to watch the games with us. Some things we've done is food contests, added lounge chairs, yard games, and much, much more. So the health of live horse racing is tied to slots. As slot revenues have declined to market segmentation and skill games, the amount transferred to the Pennsylvania Racehorse Development Fund has decreased 42% from fiscal year 2018 and 19 to fiscal year 2023-24. Still, to keep purses stable, we've had to decrease the racing days, now down 58 days from 2018. Yet, we continue to promote live horse racing with events geared towards families. Our Pin Mile this year featured Hall of Fame jockeys Frankie Dettori and Javier Castellano and generated a record handle of $5.7 million. In partnership with HBPA, we also had featured races that included camels, ostriches, and zebras, which was very fun and drew a crowd of at least 8,000 people, which was a record attendance for PNRC. We also have a Community Day, Fan Appreciation Night, Pink Out Night, and a Pin Heroes Night. As for non-gaming, as there are more gaming options for players, we continue to focus on creating events and experiences to draw new customers to the property. Our Hollywood Outdoor Concert Series, which Tony had spoken briefly about, is now in its 4th year and has a 5,000-person capacity. $2 from the sale of every ticket goes to our PA Veterans Trust Fund. And we just had our first sellout this year with our Sam Hunt concert. You know, as I mentioned, it's very popular, and nearly 100,000 attendees have gone to our concert series over the last 4 years, and many from outside of Dauphin County. And our goal is to generate more foot traffic, and doing that by providing value. Some of our daily value deals in the F&B outlets include a $7.77 double barbecue burger, $35 prime rib Thursdays and Sundays and Final Cut, free live music on Fridays and Saturdays in our H Lounge and Penn Draft House, and we also launched pop-up bar experiences. So this year, our H Lounge is the North Pole, and our Draft House is a Christmas tiki bar. And I'll pass it on to Kim Rigo.
Good morning. Kimberly Rigo, Kimberly, Rigo, Rego. Currently, we have 657 team members, plus an additional 84 seasonal outdoor event reps and stagehands in the summertime. 99% are PA residents, 38% are female, 24% are racial minority, with 68% being full-time and 32% being part-time. As compared to December of 2018, we have 33% fewer team members as the business has contracted due to market segmentation. Penn Interactive is the only iGaming company based in PA where 99% of land-based gaming employees are PA residents. Only 27% of Penn Interactive employees are PA residents, and that is likely by far the highest of any iGaming operator. Land-based gaming creates more PA jobs than any form of expanded gaming. While we are smaller than we were in 2018, we are much more diverse. Our racial minority went from 20% to 24%. As compared to Dauphin and Lebanon counties combined, we have 100% PA residents, 51% female, and 30% racial minority. Exempt professionals, 2018 versus 2024, our women went from 31% to 36%, with racial minorities going from 10% to 16%. Over the years, we have increased our workforce development opportunities. Penn Women is a group of committed leaders who diligently work to equip others with the tools that foster networking, bolster confidence, and cultivate leadership skills. Our Emerging Leaders program aims to equip inspiring team members with the skills to take the next step to become a supervisor or manager. Additionally, we offer multiple free training courses and certifications in security to encourage retention. Our turnover did spike in 2022 to 2023, as did many organizations, largely due to macro trends with wage increases and remote working. There's no public transportation from Harrisburg, Lebanon counties to Grantville, but we've been working with Commute PA to help commuters explore transportation options. At Penn National Race Course, we want team members to find their fun and create monthly activities and challenges. We have several annual events where we incorporate team members' families into these events, such as our Penn Fest in the spring, our team member summer outing, our Halloween festivities, and our winter wonderland. Now I'll turn it over to Alex Vizda to discuss our community.
Thank you, Kim. So one of the things we always talk about when we are onboarding our team members and whenever we have engagement events is how they impact their communities around them. So as Kim explained, most of our employees live in the central PA area, many of whom are right here in Dauphin County, myself included. And we try to impress upon them how what they're doing at the casino is impacting their community. So we know that the land-based casino has a local share assessment that goes to East Hanover Township and then to Dauphin County. But one of the things that we did in jumping in with both feet with gaming expansion is on our iGaming certificate, we have not only HollywoodCasino.com, which is our Penn product, but we did market access agreements with DraftKings for their iCasino, BetMGM for their iCasino, and Fanatics for their iCasino. And what that means for Dauphin County is that the local share assessments for iGaming that are coming from those three partners there are coming to Dauphin County. And so Dauphin County has been able to increase its gaming grants to almost $10 million last year and hopefully more this year. And that's going to things like we have an amazing public library system in Dauphin County. The tiny home village for veterans that just recently opened down there got money for it. Various school districts have applied and received funds for that to fund their school breakfasts, whether it's Cocoa Packs or the Panther Ram Foundation. Our roadways up in East Hanover Township are perfect. And we have a brand new fire department up there that's state-of-the-art as well. So we want to show them how what they're doing at the casino is benefiting them as residents. In terms of direct giving, the chart there, could you go to the next slide, Adrian?
Yes, sir.
The chart there shows our direct giving over the last couple of years, and you can see that there has been increase there, and that is with our concert series. So back in 2021, we were not only running our Category 1 casino, but we also were launching the York property and the Morgantown property, and just for fun, we added in launching a large concert series. And in that concert series, as Tony mentioned, it's tied to our Penn Heroes program, and $2 from every ticket sold at the concert series goes to the Pennsylvania Veterans Trust Fund, which is run out of 40 Newtown Gap, which are neighbors on on just the other side of the mountain. And that has, between the ticket sales and our employee payroll contributions program, and being able to donate leftover Tito's, whether it's through the kiosk or the paper Tito's, in 4 years, we've been able to donate over $250,000 directly to the Pennsylvania Veterans Trust Fund, including $110,000 this year, which was the most so far. We also work closely with the Granville Volunteer Fire Company. They help us out at the concerts as well. We've donated over $180,000 directly to them, $125,000 to the Central PA Food Bank, over $100,000 to the PA Breast Cancer Coalition, and $20,000 to Breakthrough T1D, which is formerly Juvenile Diabetes Research Fund. We've also been able to use the concert as a way to give in-kind contributions. So we donate many tickets to VetTix, which allows active duty and veterans to obtain discount or free tickets to concert events. And we work with the Vista School for Autism Services, is very dear to us. And we were able to give 2 free tickets to every one of their staff members this year so that we can take care of the staff members so they can provide their students with better support. We don't just want to use our pocketbooks, we also want to use our hands and feet. We've become very close with Capital Area Therapeutic Riding Association. As Tony mentioned, we've been a horse racing track since 1972. It's in our DNA. And Capital Area Therapeutic Riding Association provides equine therapy to individuals of all ages from all corners of Central PA. And they're literally just down the street from us. So we go over there, we'll do farm tours, but we also look at ways to use other resources. So we've donated leftover furniture and equipment that we've had to them to repurpose and upgrade their facilities. We've used our facilities team to rehab some of their areas. We use our marketing team to promote their events so that they can get more people to support them. And it's a symbiotic relationship in that they help us out too. So when we have our team member engagement activities, they bring over the mini horses and the mini ponies and mini donkeys and goats and everything. And we can do petting zoos for our team members. We've also helped them apply for grants from the gaming funds, which allowed them to get a new gator and hopefully this year a new mini excavator. We also get out of the community. We were just at 40 Deantown Gap over the weekend for Reads Across America. And we have different opportunities that our team members can do, whether it's walks on City Island for whatever charity there is. And we'd like to reward our team members. We don't just ask you to give your time or your money. We reward them with extremely discounted Hershey Park tickets or tickets to the concerts so that their generosity can be enjoyed by them and their friends and their family. And with that, we'll turn it over to closing remarks.
Thank you, Alex, Adrian, and thank you for your time today. We certainly take it seriously. We know it's a privilege to operate our business in the Commonwealth, and we look forward and hopeful for that we'll be approved to continue to do so. With that, we'll take your questions.
Thank you. Enforcement Counsel, do you have any questions for Hollywood?
Yes, Chair. Sorry, can we hear me? Yes, Chair. Hi, good morning. Elizabeth Boehm, Elizabeth Boehm, on behalf of the Office of Enforcement Counsel. Can I draw your attention to slide 5, please? Regarding the, what does the revenue and taxes numbers represent? What does the number actually represent? For example, does it exclude iGaming or include sports betting and table games?
Alex, you want to take that?
So the 3.8 billion you see there, that is just land-based slots, land-based tables, and land-based sports wagering. It does not include the iGaming.
And are the figures, can those figures be broken down to include only 2019 through 2024?
Yes, so from 2019 to 2024, that 3.8 billion, about 1.035 billion of that came from 2019 to 2024.
Thank you. Can I draw your attention to slide 10 of the presentation, please? Does Hollywood have any plans to change the size of the smoking areas or the smoke-free percentage?
No, and as Andrew explained in his presentation, we've dramatically decreased that square footage over the last 5 years. And I think what's important to know is we were here in August for the slot reduction, and we often tell you that it's not the number of slots you have, it's the number of people there playing them. And November is when we finished up the operational plan to decrease to the 1532 slots. And I remember in August when we were here, Tony said he did the same thing at the Meadows, and it increased quite in there. And we've seen that with the increase of, would you say, 3 million?
3.8 million.
3.8 million year over year in November by widening the aisles, which we've shown there in the pictures, and making it easier for people to get to the slots. They want to spend more time on those slots and then generate additional revenue.
And are there plans to increase the slots?
Not in the immediate, no.
Right. And can I draw your attention to slide 16 of the presentation? Do you anticipate having an increase in hiring during the next renewal period?
So I think the decrease is a little misleading because keep in mind that during this renewal period, we opened 2 new casinos. So while the number of employees at PNRC has gone down, it is congruent with the decrease in business as we've added these 2 other properties. And what we're very proud of is that many of our employees that were at PNRC in that 2019, 2020, 21 area were able to go to York and Morgantown in promotions. So, for example, both of our surveillance managers at York and Morgantown were supervisors at PNRC and got to move up into that managerial position.
No further questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay, hearing none. Office of Enforcement Counsel, do you have a presentation?
I have a statement. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Smiler, members of the board. Again, Elizabeth Boehm on behalf of the Office of Enforcement Counsel. In advance of today's hearing, the Office of Enforcement Counsel provided Hollywood Casino at Penn National Racecourse and the board with updates to information that was previously provided at Hollywood Casino's public input hearing on August 28, 2024. Those updates were generated by the board's Office of Enforcement Counsel, Pennsylvania State Police Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement, and the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has not filed any enforcement actions against Hollywood Casino since the public input hearing. No actions have been taken by the Bureau of Liquor Enforcement against Hollywood Casino since the public input hearing. And the Department of Revenue has confirmed that Hollywood Casino's tax accounts are current. The Bureau of Liquor Enforcement and Department of Revenue provided letters confirming these matters. The Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that these documents marked as OEC Exhibit 2A and OEC Exhibit 4A respectively are admitted into the record. The Office of Enforcement Counsel would like to note for the record that it has submitted the final background investigation reports to the board, and the Bureau of Licensing has submitted the renewal suitability report to the board, which encompasses reports from all of the necessary offices and bureaus under the board's jurisdiction. The Office of Enforcement Counsel does not have a formal presentation and does not intend to offer any witnesses, but is available for any questions the board may have regarding the information provided. That's all, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Hollywood, do you have any questions for Enforcement Counsel?
No questions.
Do you have any objections to their exhibits?
No objections.
Do you want to enter your?
We'd like to enter this presentation, the written presentation, into the record. And if it's appropriate, just make one final statement or
I want to make
request.
sure Enforcement Counsel has no objection to the
No objection.
exhibit. Okay, and I want to ask the board members, do you have any questions for Enforcement Counsel? Nope. Okay, Mr. King, you can make your closing statement.
Yep, simple enough. I think, as you can see, this is a high-functioning, high-performing facility. It's truly the flagship of the company. It's where it all began back in 1972. And, as Tony mentioned, we're the only gaming operator in the state that's both incorporated and headquartered here in the Commonwealth. And we've grown from this particular property, which we continue to take particular pride in, to 42 properties in over 20 states across the country, also operations in Canada. It's truly a great Pennsylvania success story. It all comes from here, and I think I respectfully submit it is worthy of relicensure so we can continue to do the good work that we're doing here in the Granville and Harrisburg, Dauphin County area. So thank you.
Thank you. Enforcement Counsel, do you have any additional comments?
Nothing further. Thank you very much.
All right. That concludes this proceeding. This matter will be put before the board for a vote later this morning during the Bureau of Licensing's portion of the agenda. Thank you very much for attending. I would like to now ask for approval of the board meeting transcript and minutes from the September 18th, 2024 meeting. May I have such a motion?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano-Diaz moves that the board approve the minutes and transcript of September 18, 2024 meeting.
Commissioner Hickernell, seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We will now again hear from our Executive Director, Kevin O'Toole. Kevin.
Thank you, Chair Smiler. The first order of business under the Executive Director's report this morning is a request that the board ratify the purchase of certain business-related insurance policies. Those policies are the board's directors' and officers' liability insurance, the employment practices liability insurance, and the excess liability insurance policies. The purchase of these policies are authorized by Section 1202 of the Pennsylvania Racehorse Development and Gaming Act and have been in place since 2006. The Office of Chief Counsel, working with Amanda Peters, the board's procurement and property manager, and the Department of General Services, Bureau of Risk and Insurance Management, secured the appropriate insurance policies which went into effect upon the termination of the prior policies on December 5th, 2024. So at this time, I would request a motion ratifying the board's entry into these insurance purchase agreements.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board ratify the purchase of the insurance policies described by the Executive Director.
Commissioner Rawson, seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
So that's my report for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Now we will hear from our Human Resources Director, Heidi Zula. Heidi.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. The Office of Human Resources has one motion for your consideration today relative to the hiring of 4 individuals. The following 4 individuals have completed the background investigation and drug screening and are ready for presentation to the board. David DeNotaris and Mark Smith have been selected for the position of Assistant Enforcement Counsel 1 in the Office of Enforcement Counsel and are recommended for hire by Cyrus Petrie, Chief Enforcement Counsel. John Faulkner has been selected as a business analyst in the Office of Information Technology and is recommended for hire by Thomas Dicedue, Director of Information Technology. Alex Van Kirk has been selected as an investigator for the Western Region in the Bureau of Investigations and Enforcement and is recommended for hire by Paul Morrow, Director of Investigations and Enforcement. Unless you have any questions, I ask that the board consider a motion to approve the hiring actions as indicated.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the applicants for hire as proposed by the Human Resources Director.
Commissioner Dillon, seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Heidi, next is our Office of Chief Counsel.
Morning. Our first agenda item relates to an update on the proposed regulation that was originally approved by the board at the August 21st, 2024 board meeting, and Senior Chief Counsel Robert Wood will present that update.
Thank you, Steve. Madam Chair, members of the board, and as Steve has said, I'm here to provide updates regarding proposed rulemaking numbered 125-250, which proposed modifications to the self-exclusion regulations with the purpose of creating a uniform removal process for the 1 and 5 year self-exclusion terms. This this rulemaking was published in the PA Bulletin, and public comment period ran through November 25th. In total, we received 39 public comments expressing concerns over the proposed regulation or regulatory edit. The commenters opposed the automatic removal that was being proposed for the elected 1 and 5 year periods. Overwhelmingly, the themes of the comments were concerns regarding the protections of individuals and the potential for relapses to those with problematic gaming disorders. In terms of numbers, approximately 85% of the comments that were received had been self-identified by the commenter as being associated to advocacy groups or a counseling service background. Additionally, we received comments from the legislative oversight committees. Having received the comments or copies of the public comments, the oversight committees have encouraged PGCB to engage in further review, study, and contemplation of the best pathway forward to create a uniform system of removal. With that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have this morning regarding this proposed rulemaking and where it stands.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano-Diaz moves that given the public comments received and with the interest to further explore other available options, the board shall withdraw from further consideration proposed regulation number 125-250 regarding self-exclusion.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next before the board today are 7 petitions. Each of these petitions will be decided on the documentary record by agreement of the parties or because the Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to the requested relief. In each of these matters, the board has, in advance of today's meeting, received the complete documentary record. The first petition before the board today is Sugar House HSP Gaming LP's request for approval of a restructuring and consolidation of entities within the company's upstream corporate structure. Sugar House HSP Gaming LP is a Category 2 licensed facility and does business as Rivers Casino, Philadelphia. Sugar House shares common ownership with casinos located in Schenectady, New York, and Portsmouth, Virginia, all of which operate under the Rivers Casino brand. All 3 casinos are primarily owned and controlled by trusts associated with Neil Bloom, Mr. Bloom's children, Greg Carlin, and Timothy Dracoff. However, the ownership chain between these individuals and the 3 properties are not identical. The petition before the board today seeks board approval to consolidate all 3 companies to make the ownership structure less complicated in light of efforts to refinance outstanding debt related to all 3 properties. The Office of Enforcement Counsel does not object to Sugar House's petition, subject to conditions outlined in its answer. Additionally, there are motions seeking confidentiality filed by both parties, asking for certain portions of the pleadings filed in this matter to be withheld from public view. The Office of Chief Counsel would support those positions, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board grant Sugar House HSP Gaming LP's petition for approval of consolidation and financing transactions as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, subject to the conditions that will be outlined in the board's order. I further move that the parties' request for confidentiality be granted.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next before the board is a petition from Greenwood Gaming and Entertainment Incorporated, a Category 1 slot machine licensee doing business as the Parks Casino. Greenwood is requesting that the board approve a corporate restructuring involving its ultimate parent company, Greenwood Racing, Inc., and certain licensed affiliates of Greenwood Gaming and Entertainment, Inc. that are not in the direct ownership chain with the casino. The proposed restructuring involves various entities owned by Greenwood Racing, Inc., that provide payroll services for the company. Greenwood avers that the restructuring will streamline the operations and eliminate non-functioning entities. Greenwood is launching a new payroll system and plans to transfer employees from the existing payroll entities to new payroll entities, which will be merged with other entities within the company structure, corporate structure. Greenwood is also asking that the board allow them to withdraw an affiliate license application and surrender principal affiliate licenses via email to the Bureau of Licensing following the restructuring. Moreover, they are seeking approval of the intercompany that the intercompany shared services agreement for the payroll services be approved by emailing board staff rather than the petition process. For both of those requests, the Office of Chief Counsel does not support those outcomes. Finally, both Greenwood and OEC have requested that some of the sensitive information pertaining to this matter be kept confidential. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to the bulk of Greenwood's request for restructuring, subject to conditions outlined in their answer, and neither party objects to the other's request for confidentiality. And now this matter is ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board grant in part Greenwood Gaming and Entertainment, Inc.'s petition for approval of corporate restructuring as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, subject to the conditions that will be outlined in the board's order. I further move that Greenwood Gaming's request for confidentiality be granted in part and that the Office of Enforcement Counsel's request for confidentiality be denied.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next petition before the board is a joint request from Bally's Pennsylvania LLC and Bally's Corporation requesting approval of another internal reorganization. Bally's PA is licensed as a qualified gaming entity and holds 2 interactive gaming certificates to offer non-peer-to-peer table games and online slot machines. They are also licensed as an interactive gaming operator and a sports wagering operator. Bally's PA is a wholly owned subsidiary of Bally's Interactive LLC and is indirectly wholly owned by the Bally's Corporation. Bally's PA and Bally's Corporation are seeking approval of a corporate restructuring surrounding Bally Corp's purchase of the Queen Casino and Entertainment, Inc., the owner and operator of 4 casino properties in southern and midwestern United States. The purchase will result in Queen becoming a wholly owned subsidiary of Bally's Corp., but not in the ownership chain of Bally's PA or Bally's Interactive. The entities will simply share the same corporate parent, Bally's Corp., and Bally's Corp. Will, however, be now approximately 37% owned by SGCQ Gaming LLC, Queen Casino's present owner. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to the change of control of Bally's Corp. Subject to conditions outlined in their answer. And as with the other matters we've heard earlier today, this matter too has uncontested requests that certain information be maintained as confidential, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board grant Bally's Pennsylvania LLC's and Bally Corporation petition for approval of corporate restructuring as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, subject to the conditions that will be outlined in the board's order. I further move that the Office of Enforcement Counsel's request for confidentiality be granted.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Our Sports Interactive Inc.'s and Sports Hub PA LLC's joint petition is the next matter before the board. Sports Hub PA LLC is a licensed fantasy contest operator. Sports Hub is a subsidiary of SharpLink Gaming, Inc., a publicly traded company. Our Sports Interactive, Inc. is a privately held company. SharpLink and RS Sports Interactive entered into an agreement in which the parties agreed to RS Sports Interactive's acquisition of certain of SharpLink's subsidiaries, which ultimately included 2 companies associated with Sports Hub's Pennsylvania operations, Sports Hub PA LLC and Sports Hub Reserved LLC. Following approval by the board, the agreement will result in Sports Hub PA LLC and Sports Hub Reserve LLC becoming subsidiaries of R Sports Interactive and therefore be privately held. OEC has no objection to the requested relief, subject to conditions outlined in their answer, including the assessment of a change of control fee as required by the fantasy sports provisions of Title IV. The joint petitioners and OEC have again requested that some of the sensitive information in the record be maintained as confidential. The Office of Chief Counsel would support that request, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board grant R Sports Interactive, Inc. and Sports Hub PA LLC's joint petition for approval of a change of control as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, subject to the conditions that will be outlined by the board's order. I also move that the parties' request for confidentiality be granted.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next before the board is Evolution US LLC's and NetEnt America LLC's joint petition seeking approval of proposed internal reorganization and merger. Evolution US LLC and NetEnt America's LLC are licensed by the board as interactive gaming manufacturers. Evolution Malta is the holding company and licensed affiliate of both Evolution and NetEnt. The proposed transfer through a series of stock sales, contributions, and internal mergers between the companies will result in Evolution US LLC being the surviving entity, and all current business conducted under NetEnt and NetEnt Holding will now be operated by Evolution US LLC. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to the proposed reorganization, subject to conditions outlined in its answer, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board grant in part Evolution US LLC's and NetEnt America's LLC's petition for approval of the proposed internal reorganization, surrender of licenses, and any other required relief as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, subject to conditions that will be outlined in the board's order.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next before the board is another petition seeking approval of an internal reorganization. By way of background, Zitro USA, Inc. manufactures and distributes gaming equipment, which includes land-based slot machines. Zitro applied for, and the board granted, interim authorization of their slot machine manufacturer license. Zitro USA is owned by Zitro Technologies, SLU. The proposed reorganization will entail 100% of the securities of Zitro Technologies being contributed and transferred to a sister company, Jessen Participations SARL. Jessen is a Luxembourg-based limited liability company. Both Zitro Technologies and Jessen are 100% owned by Johnny Ortiz de Viveros. At the conclusion of the transaction, Zitro Tech will remain the 100% direct owner of Zitro USA, with Jessen becoming a 100% indirect owner of Zitro USA. Mr. Ortiz de Viveros' ownership of the companies will remain the same. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to the parties' request, subject to conditions outlined in their answer, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board grant Citro USA, Inc.'s petition for approval of the proposed internal reorganization as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, subject to the conditions that will be outlined in the board's order.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The final petition, and by far the least complicated petition, before the board today is a request for removal from the involuntary exclusion list. On June 3rd, 2016, Michael Gross, who was 18 years old at the time, presented a fake identification at Sugar House Casino and gained entry at the casino where he engaged in table games play for approximately 30 minutes before it was discovered that he was underage. Thereafter, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place Mr. Gross on the board's involuntary exclusion list, and subsequently on April 26, 2017, the board issued an order placing him on the list until at least his 22nd birthday, at which point in time he could petition for removal from the list. It has now been over 7 years since Mr. Gross was placed on the list, and pursuant to the board's order placing him on the list, he has petitioned for removal from the list. OEC has no objection, nor does the Office of Chief Counsel, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board grant Michael Gross's petition for removal from the involuntary exclusion list as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next, presenting withdrawals and reports and recommendations and all things not corporate reorganization is Deputy Chief Counsel Chad Zimmerman.
Good morning, Commissioners. The next matter before the board today pertains to several unopposed petitions to withdraw the applications or surrender the credentials of the following individuals and entities: William Keena, Nicholas Rudman, Brett East, David Gamboa Wilson, Anna Papaayanu, Chinapong Chujulern, Ty Stewart, SIG Sports Investment Corp., SIG Sports Analytics Holdings, Inc., Insight Holdings Group, LLC, Insight Venture Management, PointsBet USA, Inc., PointsBet USA Holding, Inc., PointsBet Holdings Limited, Matthew Holt, and Daniel Taylor. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objections to any of the withdrawals or surrenders. As a result, if the board chooses to grant the request, in every case it would be doing so without prejudice to the requester, and these matters are all now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board issue orders to approve the withdrawals and surrenders as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next before the board for consideration are 8 reports and recommendations coming from the Office of Hearings and Appeals. These reports and recommendations, along with the evidentiary record for each hearing, have been provided to the board in advance of today's meeting. Additionally, the persons involved have each been notified that the board is considering their matter today and that each would have the ability to come forward and briefly address the board. If any of the persons who are the subject of one of these reports and recommendations would like to address the board, I would ask them to come forward when their matter is called. Teresa Ratliff is the first report and recommendation before the board today. On March 15, 2023, Ms. Ratliff submitted an application for a non-gaming employee registration seeking to work as a bartender at Parks Casino. On April 26, 2024, the Office of Enforcement Counsel sent Ms. Ratliff a notice recommending denial of her application based on her criminal record and debts that she owed to the court. Between July 2018 and April 2024, Ms. Ratliff was charged with assault-related felonies and several misdemeanors resulting in guilty pleas and convictions. A hearing in this matter was held on August 6, 2024. OEC appeared for the hearing. However, despite receiving prior notice, Ms. Ratliff failed to appear. Consequently, after an oral motion by OEC, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Ms. Ratliff's application for a registration be denied, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Teresa Ratcliffe's non-gaming employee registration application be denied.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next before the board is Joseph Romano's report and recommendation. On March 15, 2024, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place Mr. Romano on the board's involuntary exclusion list. A hearing in this matter was held August 27, 2024. OEC appeared at the hearing presenting testimony and documentary evidence. Mr. Romano also appeared and testified on his own behalf. Evidence and testimony presented at the hearing showed that on August 5, 2022, Mr. Romano left his 6-year-old son alone in a vehicle in the parking lot at Live Casino and Hotel in Philadelphia while he went to cash in a sports wagering voucher. Mr. Romano was gone from the child for approximately 7 minutes. Mr. Romano, during the hearing, expressed remorse, stating that he had no one to watch his son, he was unemployed at the time, and was running in to cash the voucher so he could take his son to the movies. Following the hearing, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Mr. Romano be placed on the involuntary exclusion list, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Joseph Romano be placed on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Commissioner Hickernell, seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Next before the board is a report and recommendation pertaining to Dennis Bonilla. The underlying facts in this matter are that on July 2021, Mr. Bonilla stole a cell phone belonging to another patron that had been left at a blackjack table at Rivers Casino, Pittsburgh. In January 2022, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition requesting that Mr. Bonilla be placed on the board's exclusion list for his actions, and consequently, on May 18, 2022, the board issued an order placing Mr. Bonilla on the list. On May 7, 2024, Mr. Bonilla filed his petition requesting removal from the list. The Office of Enforcement Counsel filed an answer objecting to this request. A hearing was held in August of 2024. Mr. Bonilla failed to appear for this hearing. OEC appeared and moved to dismiss the petition based on Mr. Bonilla's absence, and a report and recommendation was issued recommending that the petition be dismissed. And this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Dennis Bonilla's petition for removal from the involuntary exclusion list be denied.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next before the board is a report and recommendation pertaining to Lang Bunn's request for removal from the board's involuntary exclusion list. On April 29, 2020, the board issued an order placing Mr. Bunn on the involuntary exclusion list by default judgment, finding that Mr. Bunn had lit fire to the Rivers Philadelphia Casino parking garage. He was found guilty of a felony charge of arson and sentenced to house arrest for a period of 11.5 to 23 months, plus probation. In May 2024, Mr. Bunn filed his request for removal from the list. A hearing in this matter was held in August of 2024. OEC appeared at the hearing presenting documentary evidence. Mr. Bunn also appeared and testified on his own behalf. Mr. Bunn stated that he had recently become aware that his placement on the board's list could be found using a Google search, that it has caused him embarrassment and hurt his business. He further testified he has not violated the terms of his probation and parole, that he's a good person, and the incident at Rivers doesn't reflect the person who he is today. After hearing all the evidence presented, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Mr. Bunn's request for removal from the list be denied, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Lang Bunn's petition for removal from the involuntary exclusion list be denied.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
The next report and recommendation stems from another request for removal from the involuntary exclusion list. By way of background, in November 2022, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place Demetrius Johnson on the board's involuntary exclusion list after learning that on 4 separate occasions between April 5, 2022 and June 1, 2022, Mr. Johnson had passed, posted, and capped wagers while gaming at Presque Isle Downs Casino. A hearing in this matter was held in April of 2023. Counsel for OEC appeared, however, Mr. Johnson failed to appear, and a hearing was held in his absence. Consequently, the board issued an order placing him on the involuntary exclusion list. In April 2024, Mr. Johnson filed his request for removal from the list. OEC filed an answer objecting the request, as it had not been 5 years since Mr. Johnson's placement on the list. A hearing was held in July of 2024. OEC appeared and presented testimony and documentary evidence. Mr. Johnson did appear for this hearing and testified on his own behalf. He testified that while playing craps at Presque Isle, he had added $10 to the pass line wager, stating that it was permitted in Ohio where he lives and games. He was informed by the dealer that it was not allowed. However, he later attempted the same action and was once again informed that it was not permitted. He further stated he understands the rules in Pennsylvania, that he's a businessman and not a cheat, and that he was one of Presque Isle's highest spenders and had never been informed that he couldn't add a bet to the pass line until that day. He also testified at the time of the incident his father was battling cancer and he was going through a divorce. After hearing all the evidence presented, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Demetrius Johnson's petition be denied, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Demetrius Johnson's petition for removal from the involuntary exclusion list be denied.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next report and recommendation before the board stems from a request for early removal from the voluntary self-exclusion list by an individual with the initials DS. By way of background, DS placed herself on the casino self-exclusion list on August 14, 2023, selecting the 5-year exclusion period. The Office of Enforcement Counsel filed an answer objecting to DS's request to come off the list, and thereafter, the Director of the Office of Hearings and Appeals issued a decision and order denying the request. DS appealed the decision, and a hearing was held on August 29, 2024. DS failed to appear for the scheduled hearing. OEC appeared at the hearing and made an oral motion to deny DS's petition. Following the hearing, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that DS's request for removal from the voluntary self-exclusion list be denied, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that DS remain on the casino self-exclusion list.
Commissioner Rawson seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next before the board is a report and recommendation stemming from a request to recover funds confiscated while on the self-exclusion list. On February 28, 2017, BW placed himself on the board's voluntary casino self-exclusion list for a period of 1 year, signing the acknowledgments which included acknowledging he was prohibited from collecting winnings, money, or things of value from gaming activity while on the list, as well as an acknowledgment he would need to request removal from the list after the 1 year period expired. On March 31st, 2024, BW entered and gamed at Live Casino and Hotel in Philadelphia while still on the self-exclusion list. Upon attempting to exchange chips for cash, it was discovered that he was on the list and $6,205 in gaming chips were confiscated from him. On April 1st, 2024, BW filed a petition requesting to recover the value of the gaming chips confiscated from him. Thereafter, OEC filed an answer objecting to the request. A hearing in this matter was held in September 2024. BW failed to appear. However, at the hearing, OEC appeared and made an oral motion to withdraw its objection to BW's request based on recent board decisions and precedent granting self-excluded individuals requests to recover funds if their exclusion period had concluded and the individual had no violations of their exclusion during the period. Subsequently, the hearing officer issued a report and recommendation recommending that BW's petition to recover funds be granted, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, that BW's petition be granted, and that $6,205 should be remitted to him.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Next before the board is the final report and recommendation stemming from another request to recover funds confiscated while on the self-exclusion list. On January 25th, 2024, LP placed herself on the board's self-exclusion list, choosing the lifetime exclusion period, signing all acknowledgments, including that she would be prohibited from collecting winnings while on the self-exclusion list. On June 5th, 2024, LP entered and gamed at Parks Casino while still on the list. Upon discovering that she was on the self-exclusion list, park staff confiscated $785 from her. On June 13th, 2024, LP filed her petition requesting that she recover the money confiscated from her at Parks. OEC filed an answer objecting to the request, and a hearing was held in September 2024. LP failed to appear for this hearing. OEC made an oral motion to deny the petition. Consequently, the report and recommendation issued by the hearing officer recommends that LP's petition be denied, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board adopt the reporting recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that LP's petition be denied.
Commissioner Hickernell, seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
That concludes the matters of the Office of Chief Counsel. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, Chad, and Robert. We will now have the Bureau of Licensing matters presented by the Director of the Bureau of Licensing, Sean Hannon. Sean?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Today's first licensing matter for your consideration is the renewal of the Mountain View Thoroughbred Racing Association, LLC's Category 1 license. The license renewal hearing for this entity is now complete. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has completed its investigation of the company, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report regarding the renewal. As a result, the license renewal is ready for your consideration. I have provided you with a draft order and asked the board consider the order to renew the Category 1 license for Mountain View Thoroughbred Racing Association, LLC.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board grant the Category 1 license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon, seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Next is a video game terminal operator license for Better Bet Ventures, LLC. A VGT operator owns, services, or maintains VGTs for placement and operation at truck stop establishments. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has completed its investigation, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report finding no areas of concern other than one previously brought to the board's attention relating to Better Bet's involvement in the skill games industry. Relating to that, I would note for the record that due to pending litigation before the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania involving Better Bet's involvement in the skill games industry, that if the board approves Better Bets for a video game terminal operator license today, Better Bets will not be authorized to conduct business related to VGTs unless and until the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania decides the matter in Better Bets' favor. With that condition, the applicant is now ready for your consideration. I have provided you with a draft order and ask that you consider the order to license Better Bet Ventures LLC.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion to approve the video gaming terminal operator license for Better Bet Ventures LLC with the conditions presented by the Bureau of Licensing?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board grant the video gaming terminal operator license as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next for your consideration is a VGT establishment license for H&H Incorporated, doing business as Hardeep Brar Convenience Store, who was previously approved for a conditional license. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has now completed its investigation, including evaluation that the applicant meets the VGT establishment eligibility criteria in the Gaming Act. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. I have provided you with a draft order and ask that you consider the order to license H&H Incorporated, located at 10 Mollywood Road in Pine Grove.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board grant the video gaming terminal establishment license as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
In addition, we have consideration of 5 video game terminal establishment license renewals for CHR Corp. doing business as Rudders. The Rudders locations being presented for renewal are stores 4, 8, 15, 16, and 69. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has now completed its investigation, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with background investigation and suitability reports for each. I have provided you with draft orders and asked the board first consider the order to renew the video game terminal establishment license for Rudders Store 4, located at 201 Cool Springs Road in Wrightsville.
Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board grant the video gaming terminal establishment license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion is adopted.
And next, the order to renew the license for Rudders Store Number 8, located at 129 Leader Heights Road in York.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board grant the video gaming terminal establishment license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next is the order to renew the license for Rudders Store Number 15, located at 2125 Susquehanna Trail in York.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board grant the video gaming terminal establishment license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Also, the order to renew the license for Rudders Store Number 16, located at 362 North Main Street in York.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board grant the video gaming terminal establishment license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
And finally, the order to renew the license for Rudders Store 69, located at 100 Grand Street in Hamburg.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board grant the video gaming terminal establishment license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next, there are principal and key employee licenses. The Bureau of Licensing provided you with a proposed order for 7 principals and 13 key employees. I ask that the board consider the order approving these licenses.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board grant the principal and key employee licenses as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next are principal and key employee temporary credentials. The Bureau of Licensing provides you with an order regarding the issuance of temporary credentials for 9 principals and 9 key employees. I ask that the board consider the order approving these credentials.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board grant the temporary principal and key employee credentials as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Additionally, for your consideration are gaming employee permits and non-gaming employee registrations. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a list of 556 individuals to whom the Bureau has granted temporary or full occupation permits and 204 individuals to whom the Bureau has granted registrations under the authority delegated to the Bureau of Licensing. I ask that the board consider a motion approving the order.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the applications for gaming employee occupation permits and non-gaming employee registrations as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Next, there is a recommendation of denial for 5 gaming employees and 3 non-gaming applicants. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with the order addressing the applicants, who the Office of Enforcement Counsel has recommended for denial. I ask that the board consider the order approving these denials.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel continues to request denial in each matter.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board deny the gaming and non-gaming employee applications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter for your consideration is withdrawal request. In each case, the license, permit, or registration is no longer required. For today's meeting, I've provided the board with 1 key employee, 15 gaming, and 14 non-gaming applicants. I ask that the board consider the orders approving these withdrawals.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board grant the withdrawal of key employee, gaming, and non-gaming employee applications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
And finally, for your consideration are gaming service provider registrations. The Bureau of Licensing provides you with an order and an attached list of 10 registered gaming service provider applicants. I ask that the board consider the orders registering these gaming service providers.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the gaming service provider registrations as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sean. Next is the Office of Enforcement Counsel, Cyrus Petrie. Cyrus.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. The Office of Enforcement Counsel will present 19 matters today for the board's consideration, in which we will request the approval of 1 consent agreement, 2 revocations, 1 suspension, and 15 involuntary exclusions. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and iGaming manufacturer licensee Evolution US LLC. The matter will be presented by Senior Enforcement Counsel John Crow. Representatives for Evolution are present, and at this time, I would request that those individuals please introduce themselves for the record, and that all non-attorney witnesses please stand and be sworn.
Jeff Patchen, Head of Compliance, North America with Evolution.
Spell your name.
Jeff, J-E-F-F, Patchen, P-A-T-C-H-E-N.
Hi, and representing Evolution is Lloyd Levinson, Cooper Levinson, attorneys at law.
Mr. Levinson, would you spell your last name for the court reporter, please?
I tell my client to spell, but I don't do it myself. Levenson, sorry. Lloyd is L-L-O-Y-D.
And court reporter, would you swear in Mr. Patchen? Mr. Patchen, can you remain standing, please?
Thank you. Good morning. Please swear upon swearing to defend this on the record today.
Yes.
Thank you.
Chair, members of the board, John Crow, C-R-O-H-E, Senior Enforcement Counsel for the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration pertains to Evolution's failure to retain surveillance footage. On October 1st, 2022, at approximately 11:26 a.m., Evolution experienced a server error due to a brief power outage. Evolution's surveillance cameras continued to operate as normal and did not experience any downtime during the power outage. However, the power outage resulted in a server error, thereby causing a failure of the surveillance coverage for certain cameras to be saved and retained on Evolution's server and backup server. Surveillance coverage of 14 active tables from the time of the power outage until the server was brought back online on October 3rd, 2022 was not retained. While Evolution Media Control Room personnel took note of and created IT service desk tickets for the power failure and the unretained surveillance footage, it took approximately 44 hours before the issue was addressed and resolved. Evolution determined that their main server and backup server were not connected to an uninterruptible power supply, which caused both servers to fail when commercial power was lost. The failure of both servers resulted in the surveillance footage not being saved. Pursuant to the requirements of the Act and the regulations promulgated thereunder, a surveillance system must include an emergency power system, which can be used to operate the surveillance system in the event of a power failure. Entities required to have a surveillance system shall have a contingency plan to be utilized whenever there is an equipment failure that affects the surveillance system, and surveillance recordings from cameras used to observe the gaming conducted at all table games shall be retained for a minimum of 7 days. The Office of Enforcement Counsel and Evolution US LLC respectfully requests that the board approve the consent agreement and stipulations of settlement, and that Evolution US LLC pay a civil penalty of $25,000 as well as a $2,500 administrative fee for costs incurred by board staff in connection with investigations into this matter.
Thank you. Evolution, would you like to address the board?
Sure. Sure. We admit that everything that was just said by counsel. We'd like you to take into consideration the corrective action and mitigating circumstances that are in the consent agreement and request approval.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
I have one, Denise.
Go ahead, Commissioner Dillon.
It took you 44 hours to determine that you had that you realized that it wasn't copying, or was it discovered earlier and it took you 44 hours to fix it?
No, there were multiple failures that day, and it wasn't clear exactly where the failure resided, and then it occurred to the technical teams that the recording was affected. So, no, we didn't realize it wasn't recording initially, and it took that long. There was a lot of things that happened with the power outage. We had, like I said, multiple failures, and it took a while to understand the true impact of everything that occurred with the power outage.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and Evolution US LLC as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Mr. Levinson.
Thank you. Same here.
Next three matters on the agenda consist of enforcement actions in which the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed complaints seeking the suspension or revocation of permits previously issued by the board. The complaint in each matter has been filed with the board's Office of Hearings and Appeal and properly served upon the individual named in each complaint. The individual named in each complaint failed to respond within 30 days as required by board regulation. As a result, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for default judgment in each instance and properly served the same upon each respondent. Therefore, the facts in each complaint are deemed admitted. All filed documents have been provided to the board, and the matters are presently ripe for the board's consideration. In each matter, we will provide a brief summary of the facts and make a request for the appropriate board action.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Sarah Grudy, Groody, with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the revocation of the Gaming Level 2 Employee Occupation Permit issued to Joseph Melchori. Mr. Melchori was previously employed as a dual-role poker shift manager at Rivers, Philadelphia. While employed at Rivers, he was caught taking promotional chips. He would take the promotional chips and either trade them in for black chips or cash, which he pocketed. Through surveillance review, it was discovered that he did this for approximately a month and took over $12,000. Mr. Melchiori was terminated from Rivers, Philadelphia. He is not currently employed in Pennsylvania's gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board revoke the Gaming Level 2 Employee Occupation Permit issued to Joseph Melchiori.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the revocation of Joseph Melchori, gaming level 2 employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Michael Rowland, ROLAND, with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to revoke the gaming level 2 occupation permit issued to Wei King Zhang, who was previously employed as a table game supervisor at Rivers Casino Philadelphia and is currently employed in the same capacity at Live Casino Philadelphia. An investigation revealed that during his employment with Rivers Casino Philadelphia, Mr. Zhang redeemed 35 coupons valued at $2,500 for individuals other than the person named on the coupon. Mr. Zhang was terminated from his position at Rivers Casino Philadelphia for misappropriation of company assets and improper issuance of complimentary benefits. Mr. Zhang remains employed by Live Casino Philadelphia as a table game supervisor. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board revoke the gaming level 2 occupation permit issued to Wei King Zhang.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the revocation of Wei King Zhang gaming level 2 employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell, seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Good morning, Chair and members of the board. Andrea Roberts, ROBERTS, Assistant Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the suspension of the video gaming employee permit issued to Joseph Finke. Mr. Finke was previously employed as a lead mechanic at Flying J Travel Center 708. Mr. Finke was arrested and accused of stealing a Visa gift card from the Flying J Travel Center at which he was employed. Mr. Finke used the stolen Visa gift card to complete multiple transactions at other businesses. Mr. Finke was criminally charged, and those charges remain pending. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests the board suspend the video gaming employee permit issued to Joseph Finke.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the suspension of Joseph Finke's video gaming employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon, seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The remaining matters on the agenda consist of enforcement actions in which the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed petitions seeking the involuntary exclusion of individuals who are inimical to the interests of the Commonwealth and are licensed gaming therein. In each instance, the petition for exclusion has been filed with the Board's Office of Hearings and Appeal and properly served upon the individual named in the petition. The individual named in each petition failed to respond within 30 days as required by Board regulation. As a result, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for default judgment in each matter and properly served the same upon each individual. Therefore, all facts in each petition are deemed admitted, all filed documents have been provided to the Board, and the matters are presently ripe for the Board's consideration. In each instance, if the Board orders a proposed exclusion, each individual's photo, personal identifiers, and a summary of the inimical conduct may be placed on the Board's public website. Once again, in each matter, we will provide a brief summary of the facts and make a request for the appropriate Board action.
Once again, Andrea Roberts, Assistant Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the request to place Kwame Berry on the involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Berry was present at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia when he stole the toke box attached to a closed gaming table. Mr. Berry redeemed $117 in stolen chips from the toke box for currency. As a result of this incident, Mr. Berry was criminally charged and Live permanently evicted them from their property. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests the board place Kwame Berry on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the addition of Kwame Berry to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dermody, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the request to place Austin Forte on the involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Forte was present at Mohegan, Pennsylvania, when he and a companion both physically assaulted another patron. Mohegan security arrived and intervened in the altercation. Mr. Forte and his companion then assaulted Mohegan security. Mr. Forte pled guilty to simple assault, a second-degree misdemeanor, disorderly conduct, engage in fighting, a summary offense. As a result of this incident, Mohegan permanently banned Mr. Forte from their property due to this incident. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests the board place Austin Forte on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board approve the addition of Austin Forte to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the request to place Layson Miller on the involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Miller pinched, capped, and posted wagers on blackjack and Spanish 21 tables on 3 separate dates at Rivers Casino Philadelphia and Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. Mr. Miller's cheating resulted in $1,190 in losses to Rivers and $125 in losses to Live. Mr. Miller paid $100 towards restitution to Rivers and full restitution to Live. Both Rivers and Live permanently banned Mr. Miller from their property as a result of these incidents. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests the board place Layson Miller on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the addition of Layson Miller to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Good morning, Thomas Monahan, Monaghan, with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Andre Battis on the board's interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Battis created multiple accounts on the BetMGM interactive gaming platform using the personal identifying information of other individuals. All of the accounts were closed and the devices used were blocked from being used. The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests the board place Andre Battis on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the addition of Andre Bettis to the PGCB involuntary interactive gaming exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Michael Rowland again with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. Next is a request to place Denzel Jordan on the involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Jordan left 3 children, ages 6, 6, and 9, unattended in his vehicle while he went inside Rivers Pittsburgh and placed sports wagers. The children were discovered by security. Mr. Jordan was inside the casino for approximately 16 minutes before returning to his vehicle. Mr. Jordan was criminally charged with 3 counts of endangering the welfare of children, which remain pending. He was permanently evicted from Rivers Pittsburgh property for his actions. The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Denzel Jordan on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the addition of Denzel Jordan to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Chair, members of the board, John Crow, once again for the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Hi Sam Sankari on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Sankari opened an interactive gaming account on the Barstool Sportsbook sports wagering website. He made deposits totaling $28,622. Mr. Sankari's wagering activity resulted in him losing the entirety of the money he deposited. Subsequently, Mr. Sankari failed or refused to pay $10,366 that he owed to Barstool Sportsbook in connection with his gaming activity. The Barstool Sportsbook closed Mr. Sankari's sports wagering account. In addition, Mr. Sankari created an account on the Barstool Sportsbook using the personal identifiable information of another individual. This account was closed by the Barstool Sportsbook as well. The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Hi Sam Sankari on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the addition of Hi Sam Sankari to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary interactive gaming exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Juan Sanchez, SANCHEZ, with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place John Olszewski on the board's involuntary exclusion list. The Pittsburgh Police Department arrested and criminally charged John Olszewski for criminal offenses arising out of him breaking into vehicles and possessing illegal drugs at Rivers Casino Pittsburgh. Rivers Casino Pittsburgh permanently evicted him from their property as a result of his actions. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place John Olszewski on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the addition of John Olszewski to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Again, Juan Sanchez with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next three matters on the agenda are related and are requests to place Guy Chen Zhao, Terrence Jackson, and Charles Sanders on the involuntary exclusion list. With the board's permission, I will read one set of facts and then request that each individual be placed on the exclusion list. Charles Sanders entered Parks Casino, walked onto the gaming floor, reached into a chip float of gaming tables during gameplay, grabbed gaming chips valued at $17,000, which caused other gaming chips to fly across the table, and then ran out of Parks Casino. Terrence Jackson left Parks Casino shortly thereafter. Mr. Sanders stole the chips, entered a car, drove to, and then met up with Mr. Sanders outside of the casino in a nearby business parking lot. Mr. Sanders then drove back to Parks Casino and delivered some of the chips to another patron who cashed out $7,000 in the chips at Parks Casino shortly after the theft. Terrence Jackson also pinched $150 of wagers at Live Casino Philadelphia on 2 occasions. Pennsylvania State Police arrested and charged and cited him. Mr. Jackson paid Live full restitution for the pinch wagers. While he does not appear to have been a part of the initial chip theft group, Guy Chen Zhao was sitting at the table game when Mr. Sanders knocked chips across the layout during his theft. Mr. Zhao surreptitiously grabbed 2 chips worth $1,000 from the table game layout, cashed out those stolen chips, and exited Parks. Pennsylvania State Police arrested and charged Mr. Zhao with theft by unlawful taking. Mr. Zhao received an accelerated rehabilitative disposition and is court-ordered to pay full restitution. No criminal charges have been filed to date against Mr. Jackson nor Mr. Sanders, and neither have paid restitution to Parks for the chip theft. Parks Casino permanently evicted all involved from their property as a result of their actions. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Guy Chen Zhao on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board approve the addition of Guy Chen Zhao to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Terrence Jackson on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the addition of Terrence Jackson to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Charles Sanders on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the addition of Charles Sanders to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Kelsey Scrotto, SCI, RROTTO, Assistant Enforcement Counsel with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next 5 matters on the agenda for the board's consideration stem from the same or similar set of facts. Therefore, with the board's permission, I will recite one set of facts, then ask for each individual to be placed on the board's involuntary exclusion list. While visiting Rivers Casino Pittsburgh, Kaheem Sturdivant and Kashem Woods fought against Latrell Childs, Terrell Childs Jr., and Devin Allison. The fight began in the restroom, causing other patrons and an EVS attendant to flee, as well as causing damage to the restroom. The brawl continued outside of the restroom onto the gaming floor, where all 6 individuals continued to assault each other. During this brawl, several members of the group collided with 2 elderly patrons who were seated at slot machines, causing them to fall to the floor. A 7th individual in the group, who only appeared to act in self-defense, was also assaulted without provocation, and one of the members of the group was knocked unconscious during the fight. Police were notified and charged all 5 individuals, and as a result of the incident, all 5 were evicted. The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Kaheem Sturdivant on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the addition of Kaheem Sturdivant to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Latrell Childs on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the addition of Latrell Childs to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon, seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Terrell Childs Jr. on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the addition of Terrell Childs Jr. to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Devin Allison on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board approve the addition of Devin Allison to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Kashem Woods on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the addition of Kashem Woods to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Madam Chair, having been visited by board members from the past, and today also visiting with board members of the present, I'm feeling a little bit like Scrooge. So in order not to be visited by any ghostly visits from board members of the future, I'd like to wish everyone a happy holidays and say that concludes our business.
Cyrus, much appreciated. The last item on the agenda for today is public comment. Is there anyone in the room that would like to address the board? Seeing no one, thank you. That concludes today's meeting. The next public meeting of the board will be held on Wednesday, January 15th, 2025 at 1 p.m. via video teleconference. Directions on how one can stream that meeting will be posted on the board's website. The January 15th meeting will be limited to the board's consideration of motions seeking default judgments against individuals which the Office of Enforcement Counsel is seeking to place on the involuntary exclusion list, as well as default judgments against credentialed individuals which OEC is seeking to suspend or revoke. The next public meeting at Strawberry Square in this room will be held on Wednesday, January 29th, 2025 at 10 a.m. And finally, before we move to adjourn, I would also like to wish everyone a happy, healthy, and safe holiday season and a joyous new year. With that, may I please have a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, it is my honor to move to adjourn this meeting.
Mayor Cornell, seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.